So, real quick, I'd just like to everybody just turn around to your neighbor. If you haven't met them, if you haven't met the person on your right, go ahead and introduce yourself to the person on the right, and do the same on the left. Just say hi, so you meet each other. The guy in the back over there is begging for attention. We see you. We see. What's your name, sir?
John Sweeney.
John Sweeney. You're speaking a little later, aren't you?
I haven't decided yet.
Okay. I am a professional procrastinator when it comes to waiting for my slides to show up. It's one of the things I do really well. You know, what I love about meetings and events, and Roger does such a good job of advocating for our meetings industry, is the fact that they bring these connections together that we usually don't get. And I oftentimes find it fascinating how we sit next to people that we don't even know who they are. So I just love to do that reminder before every time I talk. I can go ahead without the slides, but it would really help if I had slides, because I have about 60 of them, and I'm supposed to go over them in about 20 minutes. So I'll give a quick overview of what I'm going to talk about today. Is the clicker the problem?
It's not green, so let me.
What I'm here to talk about today is predictions for the next 20 years of our industry. So 30 predictions for the next 20 years of our industry. Thank you. And basically what I did is I gave this talk this is the third time I'm speaking on the subject, and every time I look at a presentation, I think about iterating a presentation. How can I make it better? It's never, done is better than perfect, so I'm always adding stuff to it. So initially this presentation was 20 slides, 20 predictions. Today it's 30. And when I first did it, I sat in the Swan and Dolphin, which, by the way, hasn't gotten a renovation in a really long time. And I sat on the Swan and Dolphin for 12 hours straight, eating the scraps of my breakfast as I powered through his presentation to put together these slides. Should I come over there and help? And I came up with these 30 predictions. And they span the gamut from event logistics to event strategy. Okay, cool. And basically, I'll run you through them. And what I ask is we're going to have two quick interactive exercises. And we'll start with the first one, and then we'll have one at the end. What I'd like for everybody to do is just close your eyes. And I'd like for you to imagine the cover of Time magazine in 20 years. The year is 2034. And you're looking at the cover of Time magazine. And they're showing an event that just happened. And the picture's full of color, and people are smiling, and there's things around. I want you to just imagine the things in the photograph. Are you seeing robots? Are you seeing lasers? Are you seeing people having a good time? Are you seeing some crazy gastronomy at the bar? What does an event or meeting look like in 20 years? Go ahead and open your eyes. Whatever you imagined, I am not going to cover. I'm actually going to talk about very different things. So people, when I give this talk, automatically think I'm going to talk about drones and lasers. I'm not going to talk about any of that stuff. I'm going to talk about real stuff that affects all of us. So quick show of hands, who here is a planner? I'm a former planner myself. Awesome. I'll assume the rest are suppliers. So here we go. And excuse me, I will be looking a little bit to the back to make sure that I'm on cue. So before I start, I do what I call an audience presenter agreement. It's an agreement between me, the presenter, and you, the audience. I have three parts to it. The first one is you're free to leave at any time. I recognize your time is valuable, and if you have to take a phone call, answer an email, or want to chat with someone, go ahead and step outside. I totally get it. I respect your time. Number two, why did I do that? Number two, join the conversation. You can use the hashtag. You can tweet at me. It's important to share our ideas and kind of our feedback, and it's okay if you disagree with me. My third one is take as many pictures as you want, take notes, and then the slides will be available as well. This is free information I'd love for you to share and learn from. So if you agree, please put a thumbs up. Very cool. We've entered into an agreement. Okay, so who am I and why am I qualified to speak about the subject? Well, first, I'm an event goer. I'm a meeting lover. This is me at Bonnaroo. It's a music festival I go to every year. I'm also an event planner. This is me outside of the guerrilla marketing campaign we did 3 years ago. But finally, and probably most importantly, I'm an event believer. This is me standing at a press conference we did with the mayor of DC, announcing our commitment to DC and our commitment to DC hospitality. And when I say we, I'm talking about these guys. This is my family. This is my company. This is Social Tables. It's a company I started 3 years ago. A year ago, when I first started, it was just me. Today, we're 51 people. And we have 2,500 customers, including all of these guys and about 2,400 more. Hyatt Hotels, Four Seasons, about 150 Marriotts, including the Waverly Renaissance right here. So these are our customers, and our software, just so you know, it's the last thing I'll say about it, is used for, it's like AutoCAD for events, so diagramming and meeting design. Cool. And just out of curiosity, who's here has heard of social tables? Oh, nice. Usually it's nobody. Okay, so I'll share with you three quick stats to kind of position what we're doing. Number one, businesses spend about 1% of their revenue on meetings and events. Number two, meetings and events account for, and Roger can correct me probably on this, but about $500 billion worldwide in spend. That's bigger than the pharmaceutical industry. And number three, the hotel revenue alone worldwide is $100 billion from meetings and events. So hotels make a ton of money off meetings and events. So that's just some perspective to talk about. And then this guy, his name is Dave Chang, and he's a futurist. He's a digital prophet for AOL. So what I did when I channeled this guy when I did this presentation, and we're gonna all become futurists. So here we go. Oh, I gotta look over there. Okay, so we're gonna start with the first category. I'm gonna just hang out over here, otherwise I'll always be giving you my behind. So first I wanna talk about the discipline of event planning. And these are a couple predictions. My first one is, believe it or not, all of these stats lead me to believe the problem is the advancer is the reaction time is very slow, which is why I'm actually going to stand over there. I'm very sorry. So all this leads me to believe that there will be more events in 20 years. Can we get behind that? I think so. Great. So I got the easy one out of the way. The next one is the number of event planners will increase dramatically. According to the U.S. Department of Labor, there are about 90,000 event and meeting planners today. By 2022, there will be another 30,000 at their job officially as meeting and event planners. So what does that mean for our industry? Well, it means that event planners will actually become more strategic. This is just, there we go. I'm just going to stand over here. Event planners will become more strategic than ever. And when I think about strategy, I think about the fact that technology has allowed us to become it's done everything automated for us. So everything that we do, we're no longer logistical, we're more strategic in the way we think. So real quick, I'm gonna stop for a learning break. It's really important when we're learning to kind of take a side note and discuss something totally different to kind of shift our brain. And this is what we call the meeting planning and process pyramid at Social Tables. It all starts with an organizational's mission, and then can we get this mic on, and can you cut this off, please? Test? Yes. Test, perfect. I'll just stand over here. Thank you very much. I think part of meeting planning is knowing the audience and understanding technology, so I apologize for all the back and forth. So the first thing is the meeting planning pyramid, and it all starts with an organization's mission. We then build up to objectives and planning and communicating and sourcing, managing, measuring, and then finally reporting. And this is kind of how I think about meetings. I'm having tremendous technical difficulties today. Okay, there we go. I just don't want feedback from the speaker. Okay, let me get back in the groove. The one thing that brings all these things together is technology. And I want you to think about that because we all have a piece of software or an application or a product that we use for each of these steps of the process, but technology is that glue that binds all of these things together. Next, because we talk about event planning becoming more serious and strategic, that means we're going to need more event planning education. Right now, there are only about 80 programs in the United States that have meeting planning as actually a discipline. So it is my belief that in the next 20 years, meeting planning will be a much more serious profession. And we'll see the number of universities that offer meeting planning as a discipline to continue to increase. Next, terms like meeting design and strategic meeting management will be commonplace terms. And this is really important because right now, most organizations don't consider these disciplines at all. And right now, about only a third of major organizations have strategic meeting management programs. Another kind of really scary thing is that we're going to see tremendous consolidation in the industry. Today in the United States, there are about 20,000 firms that do meeting planning and events. We've seen that in the DMC world a little bit, where there's DMC consolidation and DMC networks. Freeman and GES alone account for 20% of the revenue in this industry. More than $1 billion each by those organizations. So we're going to see much more industry consolidation, which will include prices to continue to drop dramatically, and the value chain just being squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. So we'll see much more consolidation. And that, by the way, may include mergers in hotels, just like we've seen in the airlines. There was this big talk of IHG and Starwood merging a little while ago. Next, let's talk about event marketing and what my predictions are for the event marketing field or space are. Sponsorships will be an integrated part of the experience. This right here is a Uniqlo, the Uniqlo page on Pinterest. And what they did is they just essentially just flooded Pinterest with a bunch of their shirts, their fall collection, and as you scroll down, it looked like you were walking up and down a runway. So we'll see many more sponsorships along the way and being more integrated in the experience. And when you think about meetings and events, I want you to think about no longer kind of positioning sponsors as gold and bronze and platinum. That's a pretty lame way of looking at sponsors. We have to start having a conversation with sponsors where we say, hey, here's your lead package. Here's your brand awareness package. Here's your engagement package. That's how you sell sponsorships. And we'll see a shift towards that, I think, over time. We'll see true ROI from events and meetings, and that's because of the proliferation of sensors. Right now, worldwide, there are about 8 billion sensors. Most of them, about 6 billion are in your phone. The iPhone went from having 1 sensor to having 6, for example. So 8 billion sensors are right now everywhere, all around us, and because we'll have sensors, we'll have much more ROI, and marketing will take events much more seriously. Let's talk about event technology, which is something I'm an expert at because before I did meetings and before I did events, I was a programmer. So event technology, the first thing is event planning as we know it will be automated. There will be a world where your attendees will be picked automatically based on your address book. The time will be picked automatically based on their calendars. The content will be picked automatically based on their interests. And our jobs will therefore become more strategic, as I said earlier. So event planning and meeting planning as we know it will be automated. Virtual audiences will be a basic component of events. You know, back in the 90s, people held up lighters and peace signs. Maybe not peace signs, but lighters. Back in the 2010s, or in the 2010s, people hold up phones and they shoot video. Well, I actually think that in the next 20 years, it's going to be very acceptable for people to be behind machines as they are part of this meeting and event and interacting with the meeting you're hosting. Event planning software will be free. Now, that's pretty crazy, right? Like, I'm a software guy, and I'm telling you that software will be free. Well, software is so easy to make and build. You only need a couple $1,000s to get an app in the App Store, if that, unless you build it yourself and you need zero. Event planning software will be free. So we're seeing tremendous shifts in the business model of event software today, and I believe that it won't only just be free, it'll also be integrated. And what I mean by that is all the choices that you make regarding software will all plug and play very nicely to integrate throughout your entire event planning process, whatever it is you're planning. Custom event apps will no longer exist. So this is something I'm really passionate about because I hate event apps. The idea that I should download an app onto my phone, which is already full, that will only use for 3 days and only engage about 20% of my attendees is ridiculous to me. So I think custom event apps will be dead. And by the way, going back to this real quick, you know, there are 200 registration software providers out there. 200. It's what you call the red ocean. It's sharks biting each other's tails off. There's no way to differentiate anymore. And the only way to differentiate is by making stuff free. So going back to custom events, the reason I mentioned that is because there are about 120 companies making custom event apps. It's crazy. They're all doing the same thing. And the other problem is that as a developer, I have to build the same event app for 3 or 4 different platforms: Windows, BlackBerry, Android, and iPhone. For developers, it's not very friendly. So custom event apps will be dead, and I think it'll be a more web-based solution. Group business will be booked mostly online. This is something very interesting, and one of the bigger chains is committed to 15% of group business booked online in the next 5 years. And that's just going to happen. Right now, if you're trying to book more than 10 rooms, you have to do it via your salesperson. Well, it's a waste of time for the salesperson because they should go after bigger accounts, and it's a waste of your time because you're doing a song and dance. So we're going to see much more group business booked online, and it's going to require tremendous industry commitment to make that happen. But I believe that it will happen in the next few years, starting in the next few years. Event logistics. Event space will be more commoditized than ever. I love this event space, despite some of the limitations regarding the proximity of the chairs to the screen and the speaker issues and the lighting and whatnot that we're facing. But that's just because we're in, besides those stuff, I love you. It's like I'm breaking up with somebody. The event space is more commoditized than ever. So think about it. It's so difficult for salespeople at event spaces to actually market their event. It's time we tell stories behind venues or destinations. It's time we market a message and a meaning, and not just the fact that we have 200 rooms that were just renovated. That doesn't mean anything. So event space will be more commoditized than ever, which will require a tremendous shift in the way we market our product. Unions will no longer be an issue because I love unions. I love unions. I love the idea behind unions. I love the idea behind the labor movement. I don't like the idea behind the fact that if I need to move a chair, somebody can't do it because it's behind that line. So what's going to happen is we're going to have robots that will actually move all the things for us. And conference centers already are being built with air walls automatically going up and pressing a button to get a whole new meeting design or meeting space. So we're going to have robots moving things around. And that's some crazy R&D stuff we're doing at Social Tables, is using drones to map out spaces, for example, flying around in your ballroom. Oh, quick learning break. And I love this one because I really am passionate about this. And this idea that the meeting planner's job begins when the salesperson's job ends, right? So the salesperson's job is to sign your contract, get that signature. But as soon as they're done, they're on to the next one. And as soon as they're done, we're starting our job as meeting planners. That divide has to be bridged, and I believe technology can help with that because technology allows for collaboration. So your objectives become my objectives, and we can see it and work on it together. So I really like to think about the fact that our jobs are actually on parallel paths, and they don't end when they don't start when one begins, or ends. Excuse me. Everything you need will be available on demand. We call this the sharing economy. So if you need 10 more security guards at your event, well, you can get on an app and get them over there right away. There's an app called TaskRabbit. Obviously, Uber does that for cars. A lot of people say Uber is going to revolutionize logistics. But everything you'll need will be available on demand, just really quickly through your mobile phone. Now, it's going to get a little gloomy. I think event security, in general, is going to face some of its biggest challenges. I think mobile technology allows for potential riots to take place. I think that people can mobilize much quicker using technology. And I think that proliferation of marijuana laws, which I'm not against in particular, but I'm just saying, I think we're going to see looser laws around drug use, which will cause event security to be a much more serious concern. Events will be mostly indoors or undercover structures due to climate change. So tenting companies or other indoor areas will have much more business because outdoor space will be limited because of what's happening with the environment. The event business model. So right now, and this is really in particular, I think, interesting for associations. Associations are really struggling with figuring out how to retain their membership, and that's not news to you, I'm sure. So I think there's going to be subscription models for events. So you're no longer paying to just go to one conference. You'll pay one monthly fee and you can go to as many conferences and events as you want, sort of like Netflix for events. There will be no more cash at events. I think that's pretty obvious and where we're going, but that's going to happen. I can't stand the fact that I have to do cash bar at a hotel for my after party, and none of my guests are carrying wallets. Events will be crowdfunded. So if I actually want to bring an act or a speaker to my city, I can just go online and find a bunch of friends to bring them over, and I don't have to rely on an organizer to put that event together. Illegal events will be more difficult to control. So when I was a kid, I went to a ton of raves. That's really how I started getting into events. And I would throw these events called Outlaws. They were illegal raves in crazy places in New York City. And I think that with the proliferation of marketing and just marketing being everywhere, people want to go escape from events and meetings because they're just not going to be able to take it anymore. So illegal events will happen. I don't think this obviously applies to meetings. It's like, oh, let's go have a crazy annual sales meeting. But I don't think that's going to happen. Although that sounds awesome because salespeople have a good time. But I think that this is an issue we should just be aware about because it might give us another kind of potential problem, just like the AIG scandal did a few years ago. Free events will be expected by consumers and associations. I'm talking to you. When I was kindly introduced by Keisha to the, I'm sorry, what was your name? Marsha, she mentioned a board I'm sit of, which is Metro Event Specialists. Metro Event Specialists is like MPI and ISIS put together, and it's free, so there's no dues. So, I think that kind of business model puts our profession at risk, and as association professionals, we should think about the fact that people are actually expecting free events because there's actually a lot of competition happening, and I just might as well start a free event if I want to. The one I'm a part of was started by a magician. This magician was like, I want to get more business, so I'm going to start an association. And we have like 2,000 members in the DC metro area. Event content. Education will be the key component of meetings. Education is something I'm sure many of us are very passionate about, but what's interesting about education is that while we all agree it's very important, it remains subpar and expensive. And the universities are not doing anything to change that. So as meeting planners, it is our job more than ever to educate our attendees. And I think education will continue to be a really important component of meetings. I think we might start seeing something like certified speakers and CEUs being taken more seriously. Content will be crowdsourced. So, you all decided to come here today, and that's a great sign of your commitment to professional development. But maybe some of this content isn't relevant to you. So in the future, you'll be able to actually decide the content of the events you go to based on your interest graph and of your kind of online profiles. Event attendees. Events will be smaller and more intimate. We're seeing this pattern already emerge very much so, and because of the need for face-to-face interaction, and because of our ability to sift through the noise and bring in really high-quality people, like this kind of event today. I have an opportunity to meet every single person here because it's such a small and intimate event. So events will be smaller and more intimate. Quick learning zone. One of the things that I like to talk about is the law of sevens. This law essentially says that any additional people you add to a meeting past 7, you decrease the effectiveness of the meeting by 10%. So think about that when you're actually having a meeting where you're trying to decide something. Having more than 7 people in the room is actually detrimental to your objective. Discovery will be seamless and perfect. I won't rely on things like social media or the internet or my phone or e-blasts that are completely irrelevant to me to get information. Discovery will come to me perfectly because you as a planner would know who I am and know when to target me for what purpose. People will pay more money to experience, not attend. And we talk about this a lot. This right here is the haunted hayride in LA. It was on Shark Tank. In New York, there's something called Sleep No More. It's this experience where you're kind of being paid to be part of something much bigger than just a meeting and just where it's kind of one-way street like I am doing right now. Quick learning break. This is something that Merits and Experian talk about a lot, and something we kind of adjusted at Social Tables. It's journey mapping or the event experience canvas, whatever you want to call it. It's this idea of thinking about your attendees from beginning to end, from announcing, tracking, anticipating, entering, experiencing, engaging, and exiting and extending. So just putting yourself in the shoes of your attendees in each one of these steps, and each subset of your attendees experiences everything differently. So something to think about. I think Convening Leaders has done a good job with that, as is WEC as well. Audiences will be a thing of the past. So we'll no longer have audiences, we'll have fans. Audiences tune in and tune out. Fans tune in all the time and stay tuned in and share and like and do all that stuff. So fans will be the new audiences. Face-to-face interactions will be more, I'm almost done, I promise. Face-to-face interactions will be even more coveted. This is the percent of time we spend on our digitally. As you can see, it's gone up significantly over the last few years. It's going to continue to increase as other industries die out. Therefore, because of that, face-to-face will be more important than ever. And finally, my favorite one, events will be more important than ever. And I think hopefully I made the pitch for why that is the case. So maybe your face could be here, the next David Ching digital prophet. That's what I like to think about when I do these exercises. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to take them. And my slides are available online at that URL, or you can give me a card and I can give you the slides too. And with that, I really appreciate Tracy for bringing me out here and the opportunity to speak to you. I love MPI and I'm a proud member.